All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us this cold, chilly January morning for our Arts Build Mission Support grant info session. We're really glad to have you all here and share information about this annual grant program. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Miriam Manda, and I am the Manager of Grants and Community Engagement with Arts Build. And I'm also joined by Arts Build's President, James McKissick. And just so everyone knows, I am the primary contact for the mission support grant application. Just a quick agenda overview. We'll just start out with some introductions about who Arts Build is for folks who are not familiar with us. I'll do a grant program overview, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm going to kick it over to you, James.
All right, thank you, Miriam. And I would first like to just welcome everyone to this orientation session and info session. I would also like to acknowledge Rowena Belcher, who is one of our board members who's attending today, and she's waving. Rowena is one of our wonderful active board members with the initiatives committee. And she also, I think she sat in on every review panel for this grant program. Rowena, would you like to say anything before we move on?
No, I'm happy to be here again. I'm snowed in. I don't know if I'll be able to get out today, so I'm going stir crazy. But I have loved, and I hope the people who have been recipients and participants in this process, I've loved seeing how this has grown throughout the years. So thank you all, Miriam and James, for doing this. And I look forward to listening to some good questions at the end.
And thank you to all of your, for all of your service to the organization and to our area. So this is just a graphic that represents the programmatic areas of Arts Build, and you can see that it includes grant making, which we're talking about today, arts education. We do arts education funding and programming from preschool all the way up to senior citizens. We do advocacy work in the arts. We have a very robust shared services program that the organizations who get mission support from us are able to engage with, and also leadership development, growing that next and new generations of arts patrons and leaders in Hamilton County. So if you have not yet, I really encourage you to visit our website to find out more about what we do. Sign up for our e-newsletter. If you visit artsbuild.com, a pop-up will show up and you can sign up right there. That's a way to really stay up to date on everything that's happening in the arts community and all of the opportunities coming from Arts Build. We also have lots of great resources on our YouTube page. Basically for the past 2 years, almost every webinar, workshop, and training that we've done, we've placed on our YouTube page so that the community can access those. And then, we'll make sure that this one is being recorded and it will be shared there afterwards as well. So I can go to the next slide if you'd like. So our mission is at Arts Build, it's to build a stronger community through the arts. And we do that through partnering, advocating, connecting, educating, advancing, and supporting. Everything that we do is really based on our 2021-2023 strategic plan that we're working right now. And if Miriam, if you don't mind, if you could just click that and share it with everyone. I guess do I have the ability to click it? No, I don't. But we'll put that in the chat for you. This entire grant process has been revised and we've taken a deep dive and looked at our mission support funding and grant program through the lens of our strategic plan. So we do encourage you to look at that, and you can see where Arts Build is and where we're headed over the next couple of years. And then if you're curious about what we do have a 2021 impact report infographic that we will share in the chat as well. And you can take a look at that and see the things that we've been up to over the past couple of years. So with that, I just want to again welcome everyone, say how great it is to see you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Miriam, who is going to share with you some of the intricacies of this grant program.
Thank you for that great introduction, James. And I did plug a link to both our impact report and our strategic plan in the chat. All right, so just a quick kind of overview of the mission of the Mission Support Grant. So these are designed to help organizations grow capacity and support access to the arts by providing general operating funds for eligible and approved arts organizations that have specifically year-round ongoing programs that are vital to the cultural life of the community. These grants are intended to supplement other revenues earned and contributed to and generated by the organization. So that's just an overall definition of what this grant is intended to do. And the eligibility requirements, which I ask everyone to please be sure to take a look at these and make sure that you are an eligible organization. We've had cases where folks have gone through the application process and then it turns out at the end that they were not eligible. So I'm just going to quickly go over them. So applying nonprofit organizations must have a primary written mission of year-round arts and cultural programming, and no fiduciaries are acceptable. So that means, you know, even if you're an organization and you do arts programming as part of your programming, it needs to be the primary written mission. So that's what that is really kind of keying in on. Organizations must have been in existence for 3 years and pursue programs that are vital to the cultural life of the community. Organizations must demonstrate broad, diverse, and inclusive community access to their programs and operations. And you'll see as we go through, access is a big part of what we are judging your application on. You need to have a minimum yearly operating budget of $50,000 in the last completed fiscal year. You need to have a current 501c3 status, and your primary place of business needs to be in Hamilton County because that is our main service area as far as our funding goes. Bylaws that are approved by board of directors of the organization. Professional, qualified, and current paid staff. So, you know, even if you're an organization, for example, that's getting ready to kind of ramp up and maybe you don't have full-time staff, but like at a certain point you're planning on to, you need to have current paid staff in the process of your application. You can't say that like in the next 6 months, we're planning on hiring full-time staff. And then lastly, you need to have an active and financially supportive board of directors. And if at any time as I'm going through these slides, anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop anything in the chat or just stop me, but we will also have time for questions at the end.
And Miriam,
Yeah.
throwing it. None of these are new, right? They're just some clarification of some okay.
Yeah. This is just for clarification, and some of those examples I'm drawing on are just kind of situations that we have faced as new organizations have been applying for this. So those are just examples that I pulled just to clarify. So one thing that we did change this year is we added 2 separate application deadlines. The first application deadline, and this kind of goes back into the eligibility requirements, is really just to make sure and to have folks not go through the full process and find out in the end that they're not eligible. So the first deadline is a way to check that your organization has that arts mission of year-round programming and just like a review of all your documents. So that is that first process is due Monday, January 31st at midnight or 11:59. And then the second deadline, which is just like the full application, is needs to be submitted by Monday, February 28th at 11:59. And there are no exceptions to late applications. So the first deadline, these are the specific documents that we're requesting. So you need to submit your 501c3 designation letter, your W-9, your bylaws, and your mission statement, and then your 990. And so once we've received all those documents, you will get an email from us saying that you can move on to the second part of the application process. The second deadline is the complete application. And so these are kind of how the application is broken down into these different sections. So the first section is just asking for additional organization documents. So bios and job description of key staff, board of directors, strategic plan, any financial audits. And then there's, of course, the narrative questions. And so this is, your chance to talk about how your organization is, dealing with things such as the pandemic and recovery, access, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, quality, and collaboration. If you are, and the one that's supportive arts build and arts advocacy, a lot of those questions are for returning applicants. And then of course your financial sustainability. So those are the specific documents that you need to submit with your application. We also do ask for board and staff diversity and attendance demographics. That is something that we are using to help facilitate and track the changes in the art sector as a whole. And as we've been collecting this data, one thing that Arts Build is going to be doing is actually presenting a diversity report of the art sector that we're supporting through our mission support applications. And then also just the attendance helps us as we are applying for grants. That's information that we use and critical to apply for funding. So that's important information to not only continuously keep track of, but to share in your grant application. All right, so funding requests. So you are eligible to receive up to 10% of your actual expenses in your last completed and audited fiscal year. And then, just one thing to note that, for organizations that are, up and coming, consideration will be given and applied to like the last 3 years of your completed fiscal year if necessary. And then the evaluation criteria. So we continuously continue to refine our grant making process. As you've seen, for those of you who are reapplying, we are always trying to make changes and to make this process work to ensure that organizations that we fund are aligning with the goals and actions that are set forth in our strategic plan, which is why we did share that, and we encourage you to please take a look at that. And we have community grant panels who are assessing your application on a 100-point scale. So it's broken down into these 5-point categories, the first being access, the second being diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, quality and collaboration, supportive arts builds and arts advocacy, and then of course, financial sustainability. So after you have applied, we always make sure that we should share the feedback from the grant panels, so you see how you've been scored, and the funding decisions are based on those scores. So please keep in mind when you are doing your applications that you're making sure you're connecting back to, like I said, our goals and actions set forth in our strategic plan. I have a question from Dawn that is, will you take into consideration operational expenses that were down because of the pandemic? Yes, we will. We do understand that. And that's something that we did last year. We understand that like a lot of people were faced with financial hardships. And then the second part is performances, events that were not able to be live, but likely will be next year. Yes, that was another consideration that we also took into account when it came to tracking attendance. Obviously, because a lot of folks did virtual events and are still doing virtual events. If there's ways to go into social media accounts and pull any of that data, or just make estimates as best as you can, that's what we encourage folks to do when reporting that in your application. Support materials. So you're able to upload any support materials or work samples of any of your programming. We encourage you to provide high quality work samples and select ones that are most representative specifically of your narrative sections. So if you're talking about a specific program or a specific story of an individual that's participated in your programs, you know, it's a good idea to have those as part of your work samples. And also noting that the portal can only store a maximum of 250 megabytes of work samples. So kind of one way to get around that is to either compress any large files or just use links or Google Docs. But also just being mindful of like not overloading your work samples. Just keep in mind that, you know, you, like I said, you want to choose the best examples that are high quality and that really speak to the narrative of your grant application. So don't just, you know, dump a whole bunch of videos or images just because you want to show that you're doing a lot. Really be thoughtful and selective of what you're including in your application. Also just be mindful that, you know, our grant panelists only have so much time to review materials. So the more selective and thoughtful you are about your application support materials, the better you know, they support your application essentially. And then our grant panels. So the reviews will take place in April. And the panel reviews are made up of members of the community that represent a diverse demographic, geographic, and artistic distribution. And that's something that, you know, we welcome anyone in the community to participate in. You can always go on our website and there's a section under our grants section where you can sign up to be a grant panelist, a volunteer grant panelist. We're always looking to add folks to that. So if anyone on this call is interested to serve, or if any of your board members are interested, or if you have volunteer members who want to participate in that process, please let them know about that opportunity. Our panels are also made up of Arts Build board members. And then during the panel meeting, we'll ask applicants to briefly talk about their organization and the work that they've been doing, and then of course, talk about your grant application. And then during that time, the panel reviewers will ask any questions and share any comments from panelists. I have something in the chat. Okay. It's not skipping to the next slide. Okay. Application tips. Obviously, this is a competitive grant, so we encourage you to read the guidelines thoroughly. Once again, check and, you know, double check about your eligibility. If you have any questions about your eligibility, please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. Explore the application as early as you can to plan ahead. Communicate any questions you have. We're always happy to help. But of course, you know, if you're asking us at the last minute, that's difficult to help. Be clear and concise in your application. Panelists evaluate and read a lot of applications. So, you know, the more concise you are with your application, it's easier to kind of, for the reviewers to understand what you're trying to express in your application. Another thing to note is that our grant portal, unfortunately, does not auto-save anything. So I encourage you to, you know, work on a Word document, just copy the questions, specifically the narrative ones, and then copy and paste them into the actual portal. And then once you've put anything in there, always click save. At a certain point, we will be transitioning to a new portal that will have automatic save, so this will not be an issue. And of course, don't wait to the last minute. I had a question from Charlie. What are the deadlines? I will go back to that slide as soon as I think this is actually the last slide. Okay, so yeah, I'll go back to the deadlines. Okay, so Charlie, the first deadline is just for approval to actually continue on to the full application is Monday, January 31st. And the second deadline is Monday, February 28th. Any other questions? I'm gonna scroll it down to the last slide just so you have my contact information.
This is Rowena again. I was going to put it in the chat, but I can talk faster than type. For the returning applicants, we are trying to look at how you all have responded to feedback you've given in the past. You've been given in the past. So please make sure to go back and think about some of the feedback you've gotten in the reviews or post the panel review and address some of those for us.
Thank you. That's perfect. That is a great thing to mention, Rowena. Thanks for mentioning that. And then Charlie Moss asked, can I please? Yes, I will send a copy of this presentation, and the recording also, as James mentioned, will be shared on YouTube. And then on the kind of main landing page for this application on our grant portal, I'll also add this as well. Rodney asks, how do we submit materials for the first deadline? Just go ahead and upload them. Because of the way the portal works, it doesn't kind of give us the option to do the two-part submission. So I will check on the deadline to see if you have submitted your applications or your materials for the first deadline. And then, you know, as long as you've met that deadline, you can move on to the second part. And I'll be sure to email everyone who is eligible to apply afterwards. Sorry. No, you're going to submit them in the portal for the first deadline, Henry. And Henry asked for the first deadline, do we submit documents through the grant portal or send directly? You're going to submit those in the actual portal. And for anyone that has questions, for those of you who are returning applicants about your previous application, or any, you know, clarifying things about comments that were made, please also feel free to reach out to us about that as well. Any other questions or comments? And feel free to unmute yourselves as well. Now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. Well, oh, John, go ahead. You're muted though.
You wanted to see everybody, so I just wanted to say hello. And now,
oh, hi. It's good to see you. Okay. Do we have any new applicants here? Rowena is asking. Anyone, this is your first time that you'll be considering applying? Charlie?
Well, I'm not sure if Songbirds has applied in the past, but I'm new personally.
Okay. yeah, you guys did apply last year and you were funded. So this will be your second year in applying. Great. If you're a returning applicant, when is, so great question. And I was actually about to mention that. So that is another change. So Evelyn asked, if you're a returning applicant, when is our 6-month report due? So great question. That the due date for that will be next month. I don't know off the top of my head, but we are planning on sending an email about that later this week. And essentially what we're going to be doing is incorporating your 6-month report into the grant application. So that is something that you will, once you've submitted it to us, you'll also upload it into your grant application for the panel to take a look at as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well. You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, please feel free, like I said, to reach out if you do have any questions. If you need, your feedback or scores or anything from last year, if you need me to resend those to you, I'm more than happy to do that as well. And we thank you guys for joining us this morning, and we wish you all the best of luck on completing your applications. And thank you as we continue to refine this process. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.